Thank you very, very much for coming out. I'm so appreciative. So we first of all need a little bit of an Am Yisrael Chai, maybe as Yosef comes forward. But in introducing Yosef, I wanted to make mention of the presence of one of the great people I know in this world, Glenn Richter, right over here. Big hand for Glenn. And Glenn's wife is here, Lenore, and Kati is here. And there are all kinds of legends that Yosef, he came out of prison in March of 81, and the story is that he came out and he met Kati in February of 1981. It's a little bit of a bedicha. But what really happened is that he came out, and I think 2 days later he saw Kati and said, "That's it. זה נכון? בטח? זה נכון.
Just to mention that I met Kati because she was involved in the group that worked to release Anatoly Sharansky with Avital. And she was a friend of Avital. And it's how Avital asked me to come to see her and tell more stories about Anatoly. Maybe I met him or whatever. They're trying to have a press conference, from a fresh prisoner that was recently with Anatoly. And it is how I met one of the girls there in the group. So it's not a simple, a date in a restaurant. It was a business-like.
There are positives going to demonstrations. That's the bottom line. We're going to take this. That's great. I would appreciate it.
I don't know how well it'll work.
You have that? Okay. If people are taking it, I would appreciate it. That's very good. So as I was walking in, I saw Randy. Where's Randy? My friend Randy Alphabam. And I said to Yosef, Yosef, this is Randy. Randy is a great activist. And Randy, as only Randy could, turned to Yosef and he said, I may be an activist, but there are activists and then there are heroes. And Randy, as usual, said it very well. We are, and I feel very emotional about this, we are in the presence of a great hero. And miksat shivcho b'fanav, that's what I feel may omek libi, from the depths of my heart, that we are really in the presence of a gibor b'Yisrael, of one of the greatest people of our time. So I want to tell a story that I witnessed with Yosef, and then a word of Torah in introducing Yosef. The story goes back to a personal moment I had with Yosef. I'm not sure you remember it exactly, and we sometimes share stories, and I remember them a certain way, and Yosef remembers them others way. But this is kach ani zocher, that we were, I had the great zchut to be arrested with Yosef in Geneva. We were protesting at the Gorbachev-Reagan summit in.
We take over this Airfloat office, putting on Lenin's portrait a poster saying, "Let Sharansky go. If you are Airfloat, if you are air company, you have to let people go free."
Right.
Otherwise.
That's the story I wanted to tell.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. So I remember it. What happened was we went in there, and we said we want a ticket for Sharansky from Chistopol, wherever he was, right, to Tel Aviv, and they ringed the place with KGB, and Yosef, he had just been in prison for 11 and a half years, so we were newcomers to this whole deal. I mean, this was literally nothing to him. To us, it was something. And there they were, the KGB, they're really tough customers.
In Yosef, black coats, black leather coats.
Black leather coats, throwing our sidurim to the ground and all that. Yosef takes a picture of Sharansky. And Sharansky, who's our dear friend, who kereach mekan v'kereach mekan, he's not blessed with hair at a very young age.
A bald man.
He's a bald man, a very bold man. bold and bold and bold. I'll tell Natan that line. And Yosef took the picture and he plastered it on a picture of Lenin, of Vladimir Lenin, father of communism. But he just missed. So when you looked at Sharansky, you'd think he had two bald heads. But the moment I won't forget is, just imagine this is the Airflot office. Yosef takes this picture, plasters it on the wall, and his back is to us because he's plastering it, and he turns around, and his hands are lifted like this. And it was almost like, in those days, Rocky had just run up the steps and had declared his boxing victory, like Yosef's moment of covering.
Look at the cover of the book. It's the same,
Really?
Yeah, show them the book.
That's it. There, you see? Everybody should get a copy of the book. It's must. Like that. But it was, actually, when Yosef came to Ben Gurion, he threatened to walk from Ben Gurion on Yod Zochedze to walk to Yerushalayim, and he went like that. So, but this is a piece you don't know. Our Dovi was then a very young boy. He was 7 years old. And so at the Shabbat table, I tell the story about how Yosef Mendelevich went into this Airflot office, took Sharansky's picture, and he plastered it on the wall, and he just missed. And Sharansky looked like he had a double bald head, and Yosef turns around. He had covered Lenin's picture. And Dovi, a little boy, he looks up at me. The table is packed, but when the children want to speak, everything stops. And Dovi says, "What does Yosef Mendelevich want with John Lennon?" Ma don't send me John Lennon. And right at that point, I said to Toby, "It's over." This Vladimir Lenin thought he was going to control the world. And how do you control the world? You control young people's minds. But to our son, who now is a tremendous Talmid Chacham, to him there was no Vladimir Lenin. There was only John Lennon. And Yosef covering Vladimir's picture really showed the way. There's so many more stories, but I want Yosef to tell them. But I did want to share this word of Torah. One of the greatest moments in Torah is that moment when Yosef, after having been separated from his family for so long, is standing before his brothers. And he says to his brothers, "Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. Ha'od avi chai. Is my father still alive?" And our Yosef was also separated, physically separated from his brothers for many, many, many years. And I think all of Yosef's life, all of your life, and may it be ad me'av esrim shana, Yosef, in good health with Kati and your wonderful family, all your life, I think it has been a life of turning to all of Am Yisrael and saying, "Ani Yosef, Ani Yosef," and saying it in a very humble way. Kinderlach, achim v'achayot, ha'od avichai. Is our father still alive? It's a rhetorical question. Yosef knew his father was alive, but it was Yosef's way of trying to inspire his brothers to recognize that Od Avichai, that Yaakov is still alive. Od Avichai, God is still alive.
Yaakov Avinu lo met.
Yaakov Avinu lo met. And that's Reb Yosef. And to have Yosef here, I remember when you came to the Bet Knesset in 1981. I remember when you walked into the Bet Knesset, and there are no words, Yosef, that I can express my great respect for you and my great love for you. Our lives, we all do what we do, and sometimes we get so immersed in our own work and we're on our own paths. But we shared some great moments, and I always feel the connection to you, Yosef. I really, really bless you. And thank you. And in that spirit, I ask everyone to rise and respond to Ha'od Avichai, to Am Yisrael Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am
Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai.
Thank you, Avi. You're always very emotional, and it is just to the point. For I'm excited myself, and I'm very privileged to come again and thank you, and specifically Rabbi Bayit and very and all friends of your effort that you are doing for Am Yisrael Chai, that it will be high forever. And I know that maybe not all of you, but up to the age, I assume that the majority would demonstrate each Sabbath morning at the Russian embassy. So thank you very much for doing. Of course, it did influence them. It is exactly this kind of cooperation between Russian Jewry and American Jewry that brought the victory. They could never expect this kind of reaction. For as Rabbi told, everybody is immersed in his small businesses. Just to come up and think about something big, it is outstanding. A normal nation never could do it, and we did it. Without any order, without any authorities, by ourselves. Not me, not you, not us. And it is, I think, it is the secret of our life, of our being able to continue, that we have our order in ourselves. Is as we say, Parashat Shavua, Lech Lecha, how Abraham Avinu came to understand that he has to go to Eretz Israel. He's Abraham Avinu. It's his essence. He can't do it different. And as you know, I can produce you on the spot a good Dvar Torah, specifically in my broken English, but I think that my story illustrates Lech Lecha. It's you have a Parshat of the week, a life here in the room. Anyway, just to be more to the point, and I assume I saw that people already bought the book. But I assume some more will buy it later on after listening what I'm telling, what is in the book. And I will try to tell only a few of stories to attract you to buy the book. For all the stories, much more than I can tell during an hour there in the book. But to begin with the book again, for it is, as I would say, one of the reasons I am here. As a matter of fact, the book was published and translated in English language. Also, I did it in Hebrew some 30 years ago. It was done in English for a very important reason. The people in America here, specifically Pamela Cohen from Union of Council of Soviet Jewry, felt that you American Jews need more weapon to fight assimilation. And she come to understanding that this book and these stories can help to do something with new generations, to teach them and to give them life examples of what we can do Jewish, and how it is good and beautiful, how we enjoy to be Jewish. For my book is about the way how to enjoy being Jewish. It's how I would formulate the idea of the book. For it's simply good to be Jewish, And when you are losing your being Jewish, you are losing the essence of the life. And so whatever I did in the book, all kind of efforts and struggle, whatever, was just to keep myself to enjoy my life. For I felt that if I stop being Jewish, I give up. I lost the essence and meaning of my life and enjoy in my life. So it's like the reason I am here to give you this ammunition, to use it. Tell to others, make them got interested in what we did, not to publicize and to make me famous. I am too old to be interested to become again a celebrity. It's some kind of a burden. But most important is just to use. Now it belongs to history. It doesn't belong specifically to Rabbi Vavais, to myself, to you. It is a history of Am Yisrael, how we able to fight and to victor this struggle to become Jewish, to enjoy being Jewish, and to continue being Jewish. Now I will tell you, as I promised, some stories. And each time when I come to a certain community, I have to make a decision what kind of stories to decide. I edit myself, the best ones. I assume, my message to American Jewry, of course, is Torah and mitzvahs. For it is what we need nowadays, to say that Torah and mitzvahs is a part of our life, as I told again and again. It's a way to enjoy our life. It is beautiful. It's not a burden, an obligation that we have to do. And what to do, we are obliged, we do it. Just the opposite. We enjoy doing it, and we demand more and more mitzvahs to enjoy, to make our life more joyful as it used to be. But anyway, I have to, as a writer, I have to start, and it is exactly what I begin with the book as well, the story of my arrest. For, people normally are interested in all kind of affairs of this kind. So, before telling how I come about to hijack a Russian airplane, I will bring this story at the last step, the last stage, the last day, before and during the arrest. So, just to mention that as a group, we met in 1969. We met a former Russian major in Air Forces, Mr. Dimshit, that is living now in Rehovot. He is not a young man, a very strong Russian officer, I would say, 84 years old, bis 120. It happened that he was enrolled in underground Ulpan. He became a part of underground Ulpan in Leningrad. You can imagine what kind of Ulpan it was that time. In a small room, there was some 3 or 4 young boys trying to study Hebrew, which was even here, and know what you have. It is not that easy, specifically there. So he was himself, as I mentioned, former Russian officer, but he was fired from the army because of his passion to Israel, and they felt that he is any more loyal to the Soviet army. He cannot serve in the Soviet army. He was fired and he came to Leningrad. So it is another story how really by miracle he come upon one of the leaders of underground Zionist movement, Hillel Butman, and Hillel Butman brought him to this underground Ulpan. So when he entered and he discovered that there are young people, younger than him, that are interested in studying Hebrew, he told them, why you are studying Hebrew in Golus? You will never, be able to progress in your knowledges. You have to study Hebrew in Israel. But the boys told we are not permitted to go. What does it mean you are not permitted? You have to fight for the possibility to go to Israel. You are young men, you are soldiers, and I am a Russian officer, so I draft you to my group to fight for freedom. It's easy, I can't imagine how easy it goes. Young people, and he told you have to be ashamed. You young people sit back and you complain that nobody permits you go to Israel. You need permission. You have to fight for that. So finally, as far as that time, we had already a whole network of underground Zionist organization in Soviet Russia, in Leningrad, in Riga, in Minsk, in Kiev, and different places. So we exchange information, and it's how our group in Riga got to know that there is an idea of taking over a Russian airplane and to come to Sweden, and there on the ground have a press conference calling upon world Jewry and say, Am Yisrael high even in Soviet Russia, why you don't support us? It was in the end of the 60s, and as you know, there was a kind of beginning of a struggle of let my people do, but not that powerful that could do anything. So it was the plan. Finally, for different reasons, this big scheme of taking over a Russian airplane with 100 passengers in carrying on the board only Jews. So imagine if this big airplane would land in Sweden and whole families would go out from the airplane. It would be really a symbol of exodus. But finally, people in Leningrad come to the decision that it may be dangerous. A big group like that, it may be dangerous for the movement, and they give up. So it came to us to Riga, and we had a smaller group of 15 people. Also, that time we looked for a smaller airplane. Finally, Mr. Dimshitz called us from Leningrad and told us that he read in a newspaper an announcement saying that there is a new route of a new flight that would bring tourists from Leningrad close to Finnish border. And he told us it's that good. He tested it, and it's it's like for us, specifically done for us. It was true. KGB did know that we are planning, and for some reason we hesitate to take this attempt. So they understood that we have a problem with the necessary flight, and they schemed it for us. It was trimmed exactly for us, but in our understanding, it was good for us. For we shouldn't. Take over the airplane in the air, which is unpleasant and dangerous. Instead, we planned that buying the tickets on all the tickets on this small airplane, having only 12 seats in it, when the airplane would land in the forest, for it was for tourists, for Russian tourists, we will simply throw away out from the board two pilots. We decided that we shall not kill them, for we were afraid that it is not good for Zionist movement to tell that the fighter for freedom are killing Russian pilots. So simply we were the majority, 12 of us, young boys. We simply could bind their hands and feet and just put them in the forest. Specifically, it was in the summer, so we even thought that they can have a rest for a while. Then we planned to, as far as Mr. Dimshitz thought that this type of airplane he would flew in the armies, he knows, and he promised us that he can keep the airplane on the high of the tree. So, in his understanding, at least that time, radars would not detect this small airplane going on a high of some 10-15 meters. So easily he would cross Finnish border, Finland, for we did know that Finland would give away all all refugees that would try to escape from Soviet Russia, and then go over Baltic Sea and land in Sweden and have this press conference. It was a scheme, it was a plan, and then more than that, as far as we had more people willing to join that tickets that we could buy, for there were only 12 seats and we could buy 12 tickets, we had another group in the forest at the at the place that we had to land, figuring that when we would take over our command in the plane, nobody will control how much passengers we will go take inside the plane, and so we shall add some 4 or 5 more. So when we come to the airport a day before, in fact it was a forest close to the airport in Leningrad. Some other friends that arrived before us told that they were being watched, and they felt that KGB is watching us. And exactly it happened when we sat in a forest in the evening. And you can even imagine this scenery, sitting a group of young men sitting at making shashlik in a fire with Russian sausages, not kosher, and and then discussing all small details of this operation. For we divided roles; everybody has its role. And during this discussion, all of a sudden we saw 2 black cars coming close to our place. Black cars bearing a number 000-5 or 4, whatever, which was clearly KGB cars. They had black Volgas with zeros in it. So, and some people started out from the cars and start going to our direction. We got tensed. What will happen? But they would go around and then come back to the car and went away. So at least, and I never even asked other friends now what they imagine, what the reason of the KGB people coming so close. Maybe they tried to, to make us to escape, to make us understand that it's lost. And it's exactly the issue we discussed later. We told them, so what to do? To go home, or still try and to go to the airport, try to take over the airplane. My understanding was that we have to continue. I told friends, our victory, we already achieved our victory by the very fact that we stepped out from our houses, from our apartments, and we're going to Israel. It doesn't matter would we arrested or killed. If we escape, it's a surrender. We have to continue, even being arrested. For we have just to show that we are going to Israel. Not necessarily we can achieve Israel, but at least to go to Israel, to show that we are resolute. And our friends accepted my point of view, so we slept there in the forest on the ground. And in the morning, early in the morning, Mr. Dimshitz was himself a resident of Leningrad, so he came with his family in the morning by a train to this local airport, a small one. We met, and then we went to the airport expecting for the boarding. So finally it was announced boarding. And people started, we pretended being in the airport that we never met. It means that we are not a group. Each was by himself. I was with Anatoly Altman, another friend. But then when it was announced and people, our friends, start going to the airplane, now it was a group, people going towards the airplane. I was the last in the row, and when I watched them, I was proud, and I told to myself, my dream was to be drafted in Israel army, and I was that time 22 years old, so I expected that I directly going to Israel, I became Israeli soldiers, and now I thought to myself, now I am a part of Israeli army, for it is a really like Golani. And whole group of weapons, we had weapons, going to fight for freedom, Chirut L'Am Israel. I was so proud, so excited. You can't believe, that you yourself, Yosef Mendelevich, now will fight to bring freedom to my nation, A big dream. And then I watched other friends that were in the head of the group turned and looked at me. I asked myself, why looking at me? And the reason, they had a good reason to look at me, for it was summer, June. I wore a beret on my head, for I was a believer Jew, so I had to cover my head. And they told me before that, remove your beret, it looks very suspectful, as a young man is going with a beret in summer, it's strange in it. Oh, I thought, now, in this a moment of, of something very spiritual, when we think about bringing freedom to Am Yisrael, they are looking to my beret, to me being an observant Jew. But then I understood that the reason that they looked at me was different. They simply looked for my Major Dimshit. He was missing, and they expected to see him the last in the row, but there was nobody there. It meant that all the operation fell down, for there was no reason without Mr. Dimshit to go on the airplane. We don't know how to fly this airplane. And I thought to myself, Yosef, you are a part of Israeli army. As an average soldier, we say Israeli soldier has a big head, Rosh Gadol. You are a commander now. You make your decision what to do in this. You haven't possibility to consult others. Just decide yourself what you are doing. And my decision was to run and to look for Major Dimshit, for I did saw him coming with his family. So I figured maybe he didn't hear the announcement of boarding. And so I start running back. All the people around were astonished, looking at me like escaping, running away. So I went to the building of the airport, where I saw him the last time with his family. And indeed, he sat there with his wife and with two small daughters. They had sandwiches. It was morning. I was so angry, They had even a guitar, and Mr. Dimshit would sing something in his guitar. I thought, Mark, we are on the way to Israel, and you are eating sandwiches. What's happening? He looked at his watch, and he told, see, it is too early. And timetable, the boarding has to start like 8:45, and now it is only 8:15. So there is something wrong. I don't like it. I told, what kind of Narishkeit, Mark, we are talking about, It's you are used to Russian army. Everything is, coming in a time. But here's a regular airport, so things changed. Okay, he told me, run back to the friends and tell them that everything is going okay, I am joining. And he started packing his belongings. So if I was excited before going with this group to bring freedom to Am Yisrael, I was excited twice, and I was proud, I found the pilot. I'm bringing the pilot, Yosef Mendelevich, as not so shy, to be to boast by myself. But I found the Mr. Dimshit, and I ran back to tell my friends everything is going smooth. He will join. The moment I entered the airport, there was somebody. There are a lot of people around, a big crowd, unexpected big crowd, and people would say, they are fighting. Who is fighting? When then I entered the place, I saw indeed my friends fought Russian soldiers. and very soon they were arrested. There were dogs there, Russian military dogs. I would say some hundreds of Russian soldiers of special trained troops that come to arrest. But I saw it only for a moment, for I was beaten, thrown on the beton of the airport, and they put handcuffs on my hands, and when I come up, also my glasses fall down, I still could see all my friends already arrested. I understood that's exactly the expected will happen, for we understood that there is a little chance to succeed indeed. And then when I saw all of it, I heard shootings. I turned around and I saw that they shot at Mr. Dimshitz. He came blooding, his face full of blood, his wife crying, his small daughters crying. It was really tragedy. Can imagine the moment, only a couple of minutes before it, you are like an expectation, you are so glad that you are doing, and all of a sudden everything lost, no expectation. And in a moment each of us was taken to interrogation. When brought to this building of airport, we understood that it was a trap. For this building was full with KGB officers, high-ranked with colonels of KGB, interrogation for special tasks. I was brought in in a small room where I was questioned, and I was given a paper as like an order to arrest us, and there was written in the paper, according the information of secret services on the airport, as acting a Zionist terrorist group that has a task to harm state security, to betray Soviet motherland, to take over a Russian airplane and to run away. So I, prosecutor in chief, ordered to arrest the people, to question them and to warn them that if it is true, they will get death penalty. So when I saw the last row, the last line, the bottom line, I didn't like it at all, For, we were ready to die. But I thought that I may be killed during the fighting, like a soldier in a struggle. But not this way, that I will now enter interrogation and trial, and then if they will rule death verdict, I have to sit in a cell and wait until they will execute me, It demanded a different different power, strength that I didn't have. I told, what? Now I have to be a Jewish hero, which I am not. I'm a simple Yiddish Jewish student, never been in the army, never fought, it is not kind of my experiences. I thought there is a big names of big Jewish heroes that really could do what I am now expected to do, but not me, in no way. But I had no way to decide. Nobody asked me, so I just refused to sign. And they told me, okay, take him to the prison of KGB. We shall question, and he will tell us everything. Being put in again this black Volga, black car, to transport me from the airport to the prison. For the last time, I would say, for a long time later, I could look through the window, and there was like a possibility to look through the window of the car, and I saw Leningrad in the morning. It was June 15, people going to work. Young children going to a school, whatever, it was life. And I had lost my life. I had no life anymore. So I asked myself, Yosef, what you will tell now? Do you regret? It was a mistake?
I thought about that, and I told, I am glad that I did it, for I love Am Israel. I love my state of Israel. And knowing that there is a chance to try and maybe succeed and go, and not doing it, I would hate myself. For I know that if you love something, you have pay for your life, for your love. And as the love is big, you have pay a lot. So I was ready to pay for the love to my love to Israel with my life. And now I don't regret. I am patient. I am going towards what will happen, and I am not afraid. So later on I was afraid many times, but it was, the rare moment that I felt satisfied. I did what I could to do, and nobody can tell me that I was not indeed somebody that was true to his ideas and to his love to Israel. But now I will tell you the background, how at all, as I told a Russian Jewish student, came to become a hijacker. It's not somebody of you experienced being a hijacker, not even in America. And specifically in Soviet Russia, you can imagine it was not Stalin time, but still it was, as we say, a police state. Everybody was watched, and people were afraid. For the moment you entered even the prison of KGB, you trembled, for you understood that there is no way back. You lost your life. So I will tell you a couple of stories of my childhood that maybe make clear how I come to become a hijacker. It happened. Just tell me how much time do we have? Not to okay.
I have no sense of time.
Out of time. The first story that I'm telling in the book, I was in the first grade in a school. It was a regular school, public school, with all kind of people there, Russian, Ukrainian, Latvian, whatever. For I'm originally from Latvia, Letland, not a Russian Jew. I'm not a Russian Jew. Yes, I'm not proud about being a Latvian Jew, but I'm not a Russian Jew. It's the same. It's the same. But anyway, in Latvia there was a lot of kind of goyim, and the headmaster, the school, the teacher, a woman, decided to make a roll call and ask each child to what nationality do he belongs. So she started from the first row, and a child would declare proudly that he is Russian, and there was an Ukrainian one, whatever. But there in the last row was a boy that was bewildered altogether. I asked myself, what will happen if I admit that I am Jewish? I could think about the reaction of other children. So what to do? Think about small boy himself. Nobody can help me. I am Jewish. It's so bad. What I can do to escape the situation, this terrible situation, to make me to confess that I am Jewish. So finally I decided that when asked, I will tell that I don't know. I don't know to what nationality I belong, and I would promise that I will ask my father later, and I will tell to what. As you say, a real coward, right? Pachdan. Coward. I am ashamed. I am ashamed that time I had not the courage to tell, yes, I am Jewish, and I am proud to be Jewish, and I have myself. Not at all. It was 1954, a year after Stalin's death. Still Stalin was over the place. So when the teacher came up and asked, Yosef, what are your nation? I come to tell my small lie, and then all of a sudden I saw before me my father, Moshe ben Aaron, that was Jewish, and I felt that if I wouldn't admit that I am Jewish, it would say like I don't know who is my father is, It's like happened with Yosef indeed when he saw there in the palace of Potiphar the face of Yaakov Avinu. I saw the face of my father. I can't say that I don't know who my father is. So I told, whispering very silently that nobody around would listen, I am Jewish. But they did listen, they did hear, and they come up, as I expected, shouting, Zhid, Zhid, start beating me, Something terrible. I ran away, crying, disaster. What can I do being Jewish, Why? All others so good belong to the good part of nation. They are white, Russian, Christian, and I am a Jew. Why? Why it happened with me? I had no answer. Then I will tell you another story. When I was already 10 years old. It was Hanukkah time. I was still in the public school. And we were on a holiday party. But it was not Hanukkah holiday party. It was Christmas. Sure, for that time in Russia as well, it is like 1st January is a new year. So we had the trees there and Russian Soviet Santa Claus going around, whatever. And me and my 2 sisters enjoyed it, Why not? Holiday, party. Back home from this party, we were not aware about Hanukkah at all. Back home to the home, something strange was in our apartment. It was crowded by police. I saw my father pushed to a wall, arrested, and my mother cried. And the house was searched. House, 2 rooms, was searched, and the Russian police, militia, would say, "Where's the gold? Where's the money you robbed from our Russian nation? You Jews are robbing our nation. You are wealthy, and now our children are hungry." It was after the war, and that, by the way, the Russians invested that time all the money in developing nuclear weapon. But even without that, Russian people are drunkards and they are lazy people. They don't work, and Jewish fathers take care of their children, and even you have the same income like the Russians, but still a Jewish boy will bring a sandwich in a school, and the Russian boy will bring anything, for his father drank all the salary before it come at home. Anyway, as usually, authorities looked for a scapegoat, and they found it easily. It was Jewish. It was a time that the Russian government would make trials against Jews. There tens or hundreds of Jews were arrested all over Soviet Union, and they were charged with all kind of economical crimes or whatever. And it happened with my father and his friends. My father was charged by selling illegally some goods, for he was in a governmental shop selling some goods by, like, say, 5 rubles, which is $5 maybe. Anyway, my father was taken away to a prison, and my family was broken. Imagine how this boy in the 4th grade would come in the morning, and all of other children would say, his father is a thief, he is criminal, he's in a prison, But it didn't happen, by the simple reason, read that Solzhenitsyn would say that at that time, all Soviet population divided in 3 parts. One part was already in Gulag. A second part was out from Gulag. And the third part was prepared to go to Gulag. So it was a routine way of living that everybody may be arrested or already arrested or preparing to be arrested. Anyway, then in half a year after interrogation of all and trying to, to falsify all the facts, they started this trial. And I remember when in the day of the verdict had to be passed, my mother and my two sisters and me went to the court. We were not permitted to enter the court, so we were outside. And you can imagine this picture, this big official building, and across the street a small group, a mother, 3 children, expecting, being tensed. What will happen? What charge? What penalty? And I remember myself that time very tensed. I got all of a sudden a feeling that if I try hard, if I attempt, I can release my father. So I remember myself telling words like that. I ask you, I pray, help my father, release my father, and I promise you that I will do everything what needed, just I will be a good boy, just to release my father. And then all of a sudden I ask myself what I am doing, to whom I am talking. For we had no concept of Ribbon Shel Olam. Nobody taught me that it's possible to pray. But I say it was a real life experience to find that even not being educated, a Jewish soul is praying always. It was my soul of this Jewish child that looked for help, for support, and then the address was obvious. It was somebody, the only one that could help my father. So, I was that afraid from this kind of a strange experience that I forget it. But now I remember that it was my first experience of prayer there. And then they came up with a charge that accused my father in what they told, and he got 5 years of imprisonment for this $5, which was a lie. He didn't do it. And then my father went in a prison, and my mother went in a hospital, for she became sick. Later on, she passed away. Everything was lost in a moment. Also, we were educated, even by my family, to be loyal communist believers, and I was a member of a communist youth movement or whatever. All of a sudden, something changed. I couldn't be any more loyal to this power. And then my prayer worked. In a year, they had another trial, and my father was admitted being innocent and released. But it was too late. He became ill. He got some strokes, and my mother died. So when my father came back home, he was employed. We didn't have anything. But my father came home with a dream, and he started telling us a very funny story. Normally, when your reality is hard, you dream. You think of all kind of things that never can happen. My father told, okay, that's true that everybody here hates us, but there is a place, where people don't hate Jews, where the sky is blue and the sun is shining even in the winter. And the reason that people don't hate Jews is because all of them are Jewish, It was really a funny story that we couldn't believe that things like that exist. But we start playing in going to Israel. We would put chairs like a train, and each of us would take his book or his belonging, and it was our everyday game. We are going to Israel. And as it would happen in my time, when a child play a certain game, later on this game became a part of his life. So it is how I got this dream of going to Israel. Later on, at age 16, I decided that I will go to a factory to work for Parnosa, to support my father. And in the evening we would go to high school to complete education. And another miracle happened in my life. There in this high school, the majority were Jewish. That time I wouldn't be ashamed to confess that I am Jewish. For, it was a high school for working youth. And as you know, Jews are capable and clever, so we simply would work at the day. In the evening, go to study in a school, and we got excellent. I don't know how it notes. Grades. 100%, everything okay. But there was something more important in it. One, being all of us, the majority of the class Jewish, once a boy wrote on a board, "Today we don't study, today is New Year." I told, "What the New Year have you on September? We have a New Year on January." "No, it is a Jewish one." Okay, Jews are always strange, so they have a different, not like others, a New Year. So what to do? We don't study today, we go to a synagogue. Us, communists, to go to a synagogue, to this place. But friends would go, so I joined them and see the providence, the provision that God brought me from the factory to this school and to synagogue. For the first time, I entered the synagogue. There were old people inside, It was something strange, but we enjoyed being outside. It was the time that the activities started in the streets. It was Arkhipova Street in Moscow, and in Riga there would be each Jewish holiday a big crowd of young people. It was 62, 63, before everything. So, we met girls, friends, and we enjoyed it. It was Rosh Hashanah, so I asked friends, what's the next holiday? To come, to meet friends. Another 10 days. Oh, beautiful. So, Yom Kippur, we come again. And it is how Ribbon Shel Olam make us used to come to a synagogue. And when you are outside, sometimes you will come inside, and you are any more afraid. You saw a siddur, you saw a prayer book, a chumash. It is how I got accustomed to all of it. And then another very important development that I am writing in the book, another friend announced one day that he would say, next Sunday, all the Jewish youth of Riga would come together to rebuild a Jewish cemetery. And he told me exactly the bus to go to the place. So other friends would say, what Sunday, to spend Sunday to go to a cemetery. I have a girlfriend to go to a cinema, or we have exams or tests, whatever. So it was a kind of decision, a freedom of decision. My freedom of decision was just to go to the place, for I felt something, that it is a Jewish place, and I will meet Jews there. So it is exactly the place I would like to be. I went to the place, start out from the bus, looked around. There was no cemetery around, specifically taking into account that my mother was buried in a different place, and I was not aware that there are two Jewish cemeteries in Riga. So I was, some kind of disappointed. For they pulled my leg, telling that it is a kind of Jewish activities. There was nothing here. There was just a forest and a big field and a Jewish and a Latvian village there. Dogs yelling. no Jewish cemetery. So I was, so bitter. I started going back to the bus station and just looked again, the last moment, looked at the forest, and all of a sudden I saw among the trees some human beings. I looked closer and I saw that they may be Jewish. They were dressed like normal citizens, not like peasants. So my heart told me, it's the people you are looking for. I start running through this field to the forest. I entered the forest. I saw a group of some 20 or 30 older Jews, They were Jewish, Jewish lips, Jewish eyes, Jewish nose. Never could I met that much Jews in Soviet Russia at one place. I felt it's exactly the people that I am looking for. Like we say, Yosef is meeting his brothers. In positive meaning, I met my brothers. So I was so excited that it is true that they are doing something. So I joined them. But they did something strange, There was, I noticed that there were piles of sand, and they will dig with their hands this sand, put like in boxes, in all kind of, vessels, and remove to another place, spill it out, and then collect and back, forth and back. What kind of work would they do? Where is the cemetery? I was ashamed to ask, so I just followed them, accompanied them, and step by step, I understand where is the cemetery, the forest, and the field around. It was the Jewish cemetery. It was a place of massacre that some 28,000 Jews were executed in Riga in 1941 during the Holocaust. And it was that time, 1964, imagine some 24 years passed by and the Soviet regime wouldn't take care on the graves. So they remained this way. You could find bones, pieces of clothes. So we would collect them and bring to Kever Israel. And it was our task just to spill sand on the graves to give them a shape of Kever Israel, which the authorities were against, For their task that time was to assimilate us, to make us forget that we are Jewish. And they understood that if we erect a memory place, people would come and say, El Morachim in your side, we shall remember. And they were against us, that we would remember. They would like us to forget that we are Jewish. And the very fact that I come to the place, I became an enemy of the authorities. For the task, the goal of the authorities was make me forget. I was out to remember. So it's so simple to be an enemy, just to remember, not to forget that you are Jewish. And then some other people would come later, and like me, coming close to the place, would ask, what you are doing is you have a permission from the authorities. So the people that organize, not me, would say, no, what you can expect from the Soviet regime? Would they permit the kind of activities? No, they would say, if it is not authorized, it is forbidden, you may be punished for that. So we cannot permit, we cannot afford, we have positions, we have children, we have to be realistic, and they would go back. So the grave divided us. From realists would go home to their jobs and position, and people, simple people like me would stay. For indeed, you leave the bones, the clothes, the dead people, just taking care on your jobs? It's the decision you have to make in your life. Memory, loyalty to your Am Yisrael, sacrificing something, or taking care of your comfort of your position. It's the decisions that I made. So next Sunday I would come, and I announced again in my school that it is not a joke, that indeed Jews are working there. Some would come, some people would join, and it passed some 3 or 4 years. It was already 1968 that we did manage to build a kind of cemetery with graves. You can visit it even now. It's so-called Rumbula. And all of a sudden, we had a break. I remember sitting during the break. There were hundreds of young people on the graves in a break. Step by step. In the beginning, there were old people that I told. Later on, young people joined. And then the young people would sing on the graves, Am Yisrael Chai, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam. So I asked myself, we are permitted to sing on graves, on a cemetery, it is not a Jewish way to do that. And I told to myself, the dead people are glad listening young voices singing Am Yisrael Chai. For I thought the moment they were shot and fall in the grave, the last idea was there is no Am Yisrael anymore. And then now, after some 25 years, they are listening, they are still alive. Young voices, people coming, they can enjoy it. And then I ask myself, what? That people can feel, can enjoy? As an atheist, we were not taught that people, as we say now, that tzadikim b'mutam nikraim chayim. People, even tzadikim, even after death, are still alive. And I told, yes, it was my discovery. The dead people know, and they are glad that we are here. And we are permitted to sing this kind of songs. Later on, we had a demonstration at the graves. For we did know that in Israel they have Yom HaShoah ve'Hagvura, and we decided that we shall have in the forest ourselves, the very moment that in Israel they make all kind of memory meetings or whatever, we shall have there on the graves. So we had a woman that survived this massacre, Mrs. Michelson, Aliyah Shalom. His son is now a professor in Jerusalem University. So she told us how it happened. It's a very bitter story. And then I was next one to talk. For during the years of working, I became a leader, Not that I ran for election to become a leader. I was from the first one that come to the place, so I was very instructive. I did know what kind of job we have to perform this specific Sunday, and etc., etc. So people understood that I am, the man that is working harder and telling what to do others is a leader. So I became a leader, and it is how I had the possibility to speak. So I told friends, you remember that we arrived in the beginning to the graves, we came to help the dead people. But now, I told, we understand that the dead people helped us. For now, collecting the bones, we know that we are really, us are the dry bones. For now, from the dead people, we got the essence of the life, the meaning, and as I told you before, the joy of the life. We know that to belong, to be part of Jewish nation is a big treasure. It is a value. It is what dead people told us. And now I told, listen to what they are ordering and telling us. They tell us, Lech Lecha, leave the place, the cursed place. You have your homeland. Go to Eretz Israel. And it is how in the end of this meeting I met other friends, a small group, and we decided to establish an underground clandestine Jewish organization to fight assimilation, to teach Torah, teach Jewish history, and look for a way to let my people go to free. It was 1968. So it is now the history how from a boy that was afraid to admit that he is Jewish, in a very short period of time, like of some 12 or 13 years, I became a part of this clandestine organization with a clear understanding that for freedom you have to fight. Nobody will give you freedom, not spiritually and not physically. Now we have still time to go, and I will tell you a couple of another stories, and I will tell you another story of keeping Sabbath in prison. I told another story in Bayit synagogue. So I am not. Normally I don't repeat myself during a day twice. So I have to think about it.
Great story.
It's a great story.
It really happened.
You permit me to tell it again? For Glenn was in the morning. I hate it, I try to. For I have another stories, but it is again a key to understanding what happened. So I would say that when arrested, and in fact there was a whole discussion in our movement. Would it be advisable to take this step of taking over a Russian airplane? For a whole group of our leadership was against it. They would say that, it would say, you cannot, do it, for secret services will find out all your preparation and will arrest you. And then they will use this pretext of being involved in this plot to arrest other leaders, and they will crash the whole national movement. So you are playing in the hands of the KGB. Stop it. But I belong to this part of activists, and I told, you can imagine to save Am Yisrael in Golus. Okay, you have this class of some 3 boys studying Hebrew in one place and another place, but I would say, understand, hundreds and thousands of young Jews are getting every day assimilated, intermarried, lost, So the only way to rescue, to save Am Yisrael, just to get them out from Soviet Russia. Not these small groups of teaching Hebrew or Jewish dances. It will not help. So it was a kind of contradiction between us, and the moment we were arrested, it happened. For all cultural activists were arrested and were charged in belonging to terrorist groups. So we were friendly, As I would say, I was a teacher in underground Ulpan myself, so my students were questioned, interrogated for being a part of, students of a terrorist. And I felt very bad about that, that just sitting in a prison and hearing another prisoner brought in the prison, doors closed, and just imagine what happened with my father when the police would come at night and arrest the father, make a search and leave, the whole family without father, and mother cried, and it is what I did, and I accused myself, that the people would say me, don't do it. And I was so, brave not to admit that it is true. And now we are all in trap. And then, when a lot of people were arrested, some 50 of them, and questioned, it's normally that one of the 50 people is weaker than others. And then he start cooperating. And then, they had, as I told, a whole group of officers for special tasks, like psychological influence. So the moment they detect somebody weaker and confessing and giving evidences, they move to another one, to the second one, and say, your friend is clever, he is cooperating, he will get life. But what about you? Don't you care about your family? And step by step, the whole chain was broken. It was, so bitter for being called to interrogation. They would say, okay, this man already give evidences against you that you were the head of this underground movement and you will get the major penalty, whatever, so what about you? But, somehow I was not afraid and I wouldn't cooperate. So they told me one day, they told me, why you not cooperating? You are not afraid, you are in KGB prison. I told them, no, I'm not afraid. Huh? He is not afraid, it is not normal. So maybe you are crazy. And they sent me to a mental institution, where when arriving to this mental institution, it was a KGB prison. And they would say me, see, if you wouldn't cooperate and not admit guilty, we shall admit that you are insane, and we shall give you pills, an injection, and you will became crazy. So it was a very bitter decision, like a torture. Every day to know that maybe I am, in food they would give some kind of medicine to weaken my contradiction. I just prayed, Ana Hashem Moshe, and I had no way to do anything about it, but I wouldn't betray my friends. So I told the story today. One day I was called by the head of the department for the political prisoners in this so-called Serbsky psychiatrical institution in Moscow. And it was a Jewish professor, Daniel Luntz, and he told me, what? He told me, you would like to become a Mashiach? Like, what a Mashiach, or president of Israel? Nothing like that. So what would be the reason you to try to escape to Israel? Oh, I have an uncle in Bat Yam, and my father told me that we have reunified after the Second World War, the regular lie. Okay, he told me, young man, I understand. Don't you understand that you are in real trouble, You can get death penalty. And then he asked me, can I help you? Oh, it sounds strange, Sounded strange. The professor is willing to help me. So I figured what I can tell him. How he can help me. I was afraid that this is a provocation, for normally when somebody is helping you within this organization, just expecting that you will produce a letter telling and asking this man to pass your letter over, telling to your not arrested friends, take away this this evidence, this piece of evidence or whatever, just to find my connection. So no letter. I told them, see, I don't know how you can help me. What I ask, don't harm me. That's all? Yes, that's all. Don't harm me. Okay. You can take this criminal. I was sent back. And like a week later, some KGB officer came and told me that I'm taken away from this prison. I was afraid, I understood that they are taking me to the tortures, for I did know that there is a place away from Moscow that they are giving the pills and the injections. So I asked, what you are going to do with me? Where are you taking me? Wow, he told me, Professor Luntz found out that you are a liar, you try to pretend being insane. Professor Luntz says that you are sane and you can be put to the trial, It is how he helped me. So I was back to the prison, and now the game changed. For the real task, the real aim of this plot of bringing us in the trap was to break us, which they did already, to make us confess and cooperate, and then later on to make us to be part of their big performance, as they used to do during Stalin times, to admit that Zionism is wrong and call upon Soviet Jewry and the world Jewry, stop to support this Let My People Go movement, for we Jews in Soviet Russia are satisfied, and it was our mistake, and we were brainwashed by the propaganda, whatever, with our hands to crush our movement. So they prepared people, as some of them were really under danger of death penalty, and they cooperated. So it gave them expectation. And now it was my turn. They understood that I will not give evidences, but they tried a different way. One day I was called to another interrogator, Captain Popov, that would say me, I feel that it is late time, people have to go, so I will finish soon. And Major Popov told me, I look at you, you are a young man, you will get death penalty. Why you are that stubborn? Don't you understand that there are situations in life that you cannot go against the wall? It will not help. You will not break the wall. You will break your head. So just admit that you made a mistake, and we shall give you, instead of death, some 7-8 years of imprisonment, and then out you will be still young and you can start your life. So just confess, admit that it was a mistake, and blame yourself for doing that, and you will be free in 7-8 years. It's a clinicite. Anyway, and I was angry with that, and I thought that indeed, he has right. He has right. For we have to be realistic. Not always we have to confess, I am a Zionist. You will be killed for your Zionism. So one in your life, take care of yourself. And then when I told it to myself, I was ashamed. I told, what? I can buy my life by being a traitor? What kind of life? When I got the meaning of the life from the dead people, they taught me the value of being Jewish, the joy of being Jewish. And now this man says me, give up everything and you will remain alive. I don't need a life like that. I prefer to die. But remain myself. I told, I was a regular Soviet citizen without any joy in life. But the moment I discovered that I belong to my Jewish nation, they are part of Jewish nation, it's a meaning. It is the real meaning of the life. I am not going to give it up. So next time when being brought to the interrogation, for the beginning I will make the story shorter. For the beginning I covered my head with a handkerchief. That, to show them that I keep mitzvahs, I cover my head. He was angry and told me, remove this piece of cloth, this cloth. Why? You are an educated man. Why you behave like you are primitive, And I told, one moment I told, see, we Jews cover the head. Every Jew in all the whole world would cover the head. It's our national tradition. It's why we're doing that. And I come up with a whole lecture that I taught myself, and I studied in the underground about Jewish history, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe Rabbeinu, Exodus, whatever. So I would say it was for the first time that I signed all the protocols that he wrote about Jewish history. Back to the cell, I thought about something else that I can do. I can pray. So I wrote myself in Hebrew a prayer like a Shmona Esrei. I didn't remember by memory, but I would say, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaNorah, to praise Ribono Shel Olam. And then I would say, Ribono Shel Olam, give freedom and take my people go out from Soviet Russia and take care of my father and of my sister. And then I would tell in the bottom line, and don't forget me, for I cannot withstand anymore being here in the prison. So having this piece of paper with my prayer, I looked for a place of Mizrach, you have to pray to Mizrach. So I decided that I will pray at a small window, like at the ceiling there, a small window with grates, imagining like I am Daniel. Daniel, the prophet, would come up to Aliyat Agag, to the second floor, being in Babel, opening the window and directing his heart toward Yerushalayim. So I would stand there, this small window there, and praying myself, Ana Hashem, Moshiach, keeping this piece of paper. Each moment I would use between the interrogation and questioning to pray, and in a couple of days, guards would enter my cell. What you are tapping all the time? You are standing at the wall and tapping like that, like prayer. You are trying to pull out a brick or run away or whatever. I say Monte Cristo. I could do it, but it would take another 10 years, and that time I was already half a year in a prison. So they checked the grates and the bricks, everything was intact. So what you are doing there? And then they checked my pockets and they found, oh, it's the letter. You are trying to pass your letter over the grates. It's exactly what we are looking. What you have written in the letter. No, I will not tell you. Okay, where you have Jews that will translate us. Then later being brought to the interrogator, he had already the translation on his table, and he told me this way, Yosef, you became religious? You never been religious. Who influenced you? See, imagine, a young boy is sitting in a cell, a slave, their slave. And all of a sudden he turned to be a free man, Ben Horin. I couldn't say him that Rabboni Shalom influenced me. He would think that I am crazy. Why is Rabboni Shalom in this small place? So I told him, simply, I told you that I am Jewish. I am not Russian, and we Jews behave way like that. Anyway, after several months of interrogation, the case was closed, and the trial started. When brought in the court, we were not permitted to communicate. Each of us, for the first time, we would meet in the court for all during the time of interrogation. We never met, so we were so glad to embrace each other. How Mashlomcha, not permitted. We were guarded from both sides. Each of us was a Russian sergeant. Don't look to your friend, don't talk to him, you sit like this, like a soldier, and just answer the question of the judge. But still, a friend seated next to me, Arya Hanok, managed to whisper and say me, Yosef, it's the day of Hanukkah. Unbelievable. I understood that it is a miracle that Rabboni Shalom made for this persecution. That execution in Arumbala was Hanukkah time, And then I told that the God is drafting me to the army of Hashmonaim. Also, we were bitter being in a trap, understanding that we lost the battle, but now being drafted to the army of Hashmonaim, I felt strong as soldiers, and I was ready again to fight. Not only me, As I told you, they performed everything for this big performance that our friends would come up and claim Zionism and whatever. So the first one to be questioned in the trial was Major Dimshitz himself. He was in prison, and surely he expected death penalty. And they asked him, Major Dimshitz, you were a Soviet officer. You were a member of Communist Party. What made you to become an enemy of Soviet power? Wasn't it a mistake? And certainly had to admit, yes, I pardon and whatever. All of a sudden, miracle of Hanukkah, Nes Hanukkah, Major Jimshitz come up and told, I blame on Soviet power being anti-Semitic. You are against our state, our Jewish state, because you are ready to ruin, to crush our Jewish state. And it is why I am obliged as a Jew to fight against you, for you try to assimilate us. You closed all our cultural institution, whatever, This judge became, really pale. He understood that the game is lost, that there will not performance that they planned. And then they asked Silva Zalmanson for her husband, Edward Kuznetsov, was the second one. And we heard in a prison her crying all the time. So they assumed that she is broken. And they asked her, Silva, what's the reason you tried to escape from Soviet Russia? And she told, for we, all of us, swear, Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini. The judge asked for translation, and he understood. Everything is lost. Even this weak woman, Silva, says, Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini. So he asked some other, until my turn, asked Mendelevich, what's the reason? They understood that they can't expect anything good from me. Anyway, I told, see, Ribono Shel Olam gave Eretz Yisrael to Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And I am their grandchild. So it is my place to be there. Another prosecutor jumped up and told the judge, in vain did you ask Mendelevich, don't you know that he is a religious fanatic Zionist? I cannot understand how these men grow up in our Soviet reality, He is not interested in anything except of his Judaism, Torah, and mitzvahs, and Eretz Yisrael, And I say, later on when I read about Bilam, cursing Am Yisrael, all the curses was a blessing. For me it was a blessing. What? I am a religious fanatic, And since that time, I am proud to be a religious fanatic. And then, after all, Mr. Dimshitz got death penalty, and Mr. Kuznetsov got death penalty, and I got only 15 years of imprisonment of trying to harm the Soviet security, 15 years of imprisonment trying to take over Russian Soviet property of the airplane, and 15 years of imprisonment for betrayal my Soviet Russian motherland, and only 7 years for Zionist activities. But it was life, and they got this. So it was bitter, but it took another week. It was Zot HaChanukah. Remember, Zot HaChanukah, my friend knocked at the wall, and he would speak through a mug, aluminum mug, and told me, Yosef, I got to know that the death penalty under the heavy pressure of American Jewry, as death penalties are being cancelled and all the charges are softened. You got only 12 years of imprisonment. I got 10. Silva got 8 years of imprisonment. It was a real victory. It was really Nes Chanukah, Al Yeshuot ועל הנחמות ועל הניסים שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. And then, when being sent to serve my penalty, to be in the labor camps in Siberia, I was put on the train. They have millions of prisoners, so they transport them in a train. Imagine all the crowds of hundreds of criminals being pushed in a wagon, right? But not me. I was on my case was written tick. They have this written political security prisoner, most dangerous. And in small letters, religious fanatics. That dangerous that they couldn't keep me together with other prisoners, so I was put alone, and I enjoyed, never all of them, hundreds of them sitting bequeathed in a small place, and I had fresh air like a tourist traveling to my prison. And then I got a bunch of letters that were sent me during imprisonment and trials that I was not permitted to have, for I was isolated. So after the censorship, I got some letters. I opened the first letter. It was 1971, saying, Yosef, I got permission to leave, my student in Ulpan. And then another letter of a couple saying, Yosef, we got permission to leave. Thanks, friends. It is because of you. And then my sisters would send me a telegram at cable. Yosef, we are on a board. We are going on a board of a plane to go to Israel. Then I understood it was a real miracle. The Aliyah started, whereas during this trial in Hanukkah time, each of us lightened the candle of him himself. It was our press conference there in the court to declare that we believe and we are fighting and we are already dead to die for our Am Yisrael. And the light of Hanukkah brought really freedom, lightened your hearts. You listening heard about our trial. People, as I was told, simply went out from their homes, started demonstrating in every place. Thousands, hundreds of thousands. And then I was told that Leonid Brezhnev called the head of KGB and asked the head of KGB, what is happening? What's the old demonstration all over the world? The president would call me and demand not to execute the prisoners. What's happening? And the head of KGB would say, it was the biggest achievement of our secret police, but we found Jewish terrorists that were ready to run away to Israel, and we arrested them. And Brezhnev told us, this head of KGB, you are stupid, It is a trap. You fall in a trap. Just imagine the provision of Ribbon Shel Olam. In the beginning, they felt that they put us in a trap and they arrested us. And then in the end, it turned out that they are in a trap. For the whole world was against them. And that time, Soviet Union was already interested in American technology, even in grain, in whatever. So he told this man, the head of KGB, you are stupid. If you found out that there is a group of Jews that would willing to go to Israel, you have to send them away and forget about that. We need this whole noise all over the world about these Jews in the prison. So it is how it started, It is how the big evil empire, this superpower, Soviet Union, found out that it is another superpower. It's Am Yisrael led by Kadosh Baruch Hu. And we won the battle. Remember it, and when we are united, and we are resolute, and we are ready to sacrifice, we will do everything. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you. What question? The answers are in the book.
Folks, those of you who still have not yet purchased books, there are still some left outside. They're $20. It's at a subsidized discount. And Yosef, you're going to try the books.
Just before you leave, I wanted to say two things. One, I actually saw Yosef at a particular moment. We were together when they were taking all of your clothes off. And I was with Yosef, and I saw when they took his undershirt off, he ripped his shirt in half, and he put half of it on his head. So I saw that. And the other thing I want to tell you about this book is something very personal, that Yosef wrote this book all the way back in it was ready to actually be translated, I believe, in 1986. And at that time, he really had resolved that whenever an American leader would meet a Russian leader, that Yosef would be going, and that I would, with others, we would try to go together. And we were supposed to go to Reykjavik. Reykjavik was the second summit, and we were supposed to go. And my job was to raise some money. It was going to cost $3,000. And at that time, I suffered a heart attack, as some of you may know, during a demonstration. And I called Yosef. I said, Yosef, not only can't I go, but I can't raise the money to go. So I just want to tell you what Yosef did. Yosef said, this is Maseh Shaya, so it has something to do with the book. He said, you know, I raised $3,000 to translate this book. You can't raise the money, so I'm going to use this money instead of translating the book 25 years ago. I'm going to use it to travel to Reykjavik.
Not to travel to demonstrate against the
We went to Reykjavik, and there's a famous photo of Yosef coming down the stairs of the plane, holding a Sefer Torah. I think that Gorbachev was nearby.
on the spot, and watch me, you know.
But I just want to say something that, you know, when you listen to Yosef, you know, it's beyond belief. I mean, you know, it's a human being standing up in front of, you know, arguably with the United States, the greatest power in the world, just standing up for them. I mean, it's like what Randy said. I mean, this is not activism. This is tremendous heroism. And when a person comes out of prison, for me, just a personal note, what do? You write a book, you translate the book. It was the time to get it out in English, get famous. And he says, it wasn't so easy for Yosef then, believe me, or Kati. You know what, I'm going to use the money because I've got to go continue the protest movement. It's only 25 years later that thank God through Pam's effort that this has happened. So,
Not only Pam, you know what, when I gave the book to Anatoly Sharansky, he looked at the list of donors and he told, you know, ridiculously, all the people met me in Moscow before my arrest, and I am so glad they are still active, doing something for Am Yisrael.
Oh, you just saw greatness tonight, and thank you. Everybody should pick up a book outside. So.
Not necessarily. We have another stop in Seattle when I was told that they are short of